Okay, let's jump right into this explainer of the source material and uncover exactly why the roof above your head is acting like a giant cast iron skillet, and more importantly, how a 200-year-old secret can fix it for under $100. You know, right now, every single hour of every summer day, that dark surface above you is literally pulling in radiation and pushing it straight down into your living room. You're basically paying to cool a house that your own roof is actively heating up. But it really doesn't have to be this way. Today we're going to look at the exact science, the materials, and the method to cool your house using simple physics instead of just an overworked AC unit.
So why exactly is your roof cooking you alive? Well, picture this. On a typical summer afternoon in most of the country, dark asphalt roofs reach 160 degrees. I mean, you can literally burn your hands on them. That pushes intense heat straight down into your attic, driving temperatures up to 140 degrees or even more. That superheated air just presses down through your ceiling, forcing your AC into this relentless fight it was never, ever designed to win. See, your AC was built to run in cycles, but instead, it just keeps running, trying desperately to push out the heat that your roof is actively absorbing.
And as you might guess, this translates directly into a massive financial drain. That relentless heat means the average family spends, get this, an infuriating $719 every single summer just fighting their own roof. That's not your furnace, your lights, or your water heater. That is strictly the price of battling an overheated attic. And honestly, that doesn't even touch the massive long-term costs. A brand new central AC system, that runs between $5,000 and $15,000 to install, and running it non-stop significantly shortens its lifespan. Over a decade, you could easily be looking at tens of thousands of dollars just to push heat out of a house that should never have let it in to begin with.
Now, the actual science of how that heat gets in is super fascinating. Most of us, we just assume it's the hot 95-degree outside air seeping through the walls and windows. But the Department of Energy confirmed decades ago that 93% of the heat entering your roof is radiant, invisible infrared energy beaming straight down from the sun. It's not just hot air. It's radiation absorbed by your shingles and re-emitted right into your attic. Only 7% actually comes from conductive or convective heat. Crazy, right?
But here's the thing. There is a community that figured this out generations ago, completely without government grants, fancy thermometers, or high-tech labs: the Amish. A man living near an Amish community actually recalled his neighbors saying, "We do not fight the heat, we just do not invite it inside." I love that. It's such an elegant, simple philosophy. The Amish use basic physics, things like thermal mass, cross-ventilation, and highly reflective light-colored surfaces to naturally bounce sunlight away. They don't use dark roofs, they use metal or slate, and for over 2 centuries, they've been applying lime wash just to bounce that heat right off.
And this brilliantly illustrates that this isn't just some local folklore. Tracing the source material historically, from the Minoans on the island of Crete using hydrated lime 3,500 years ago, to the Egyptians, the Persians, and even King John in 1212, ordering houses to be whitewashed, the pattern is clear. Fast forward to modern science, and we see NASA developing radiant foil in 1959 to protect spacecraft from 500-degree temperature swings, and then the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab testing white roofs in 1973. Humans have continually, throughout all of recorded history, relied on reflective surfaces to deflect extreme radiant heat. Actually, let's look a bit closer at that 1973 Lawrence Berkeley National Lab experiment, because the results were absolutely game-changing. They took 2 identical flat roofs. One was dark, the other was coated with powdered limestone and water, which is essentially the exact same compound the Amish use. The coated roof dropped its surface temperature by a staggering 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the interior temperature beneath it fell by 8 degrees. All of this with absolutely zero electricity, no moving parts, and no fans. Turns out, physics doesn't require a plug or a monthly subscription, just simple science and a white surface. And what about that NASA technology? Well, by the 1970s and 80s, the Department of Energy ran tests putting NASA's radiant barrier foil inside residential attics, and the results were undeniable. Just look at this homeowner in Phoenix. Before the foil, his AC was running 4.5 hours a day. After simply stapling the foil to the underside of his rafters, his AC runtime plummeted down to just 1.8 hours a day. His attic temperature dropped from 138 degrees down to 104, saving him nearly $200 on a single July electric bill. That is huge.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly why standard insulation falls short. Think about those big rolls of pink fiberglass insulation sitting in most of our attics. That insulation only addresses conduction and convection, which, remember, is just 7% of the problem. It slows heat moving through physical contact and air currents, but it does almost nothing to stop radiant energy. Standard fiberglass addresses just 7% of the heat, while radiant barriers are designed to intercept that massive 93% of infrared radiation before it can even heat the air inside your attic.
But here's where the plot thickens. In 1991, radiant barrier technology was just quietly removed from major residential construction reference manuals in the United States. Because of this, an entire generation of modern contractors and builders were not trained on the technology, while the insulation and HVAC industries just continued on with their standard product lines. It wasn't banned, no study disproved it, it was simply no longer included in the next edition. Kind of makes you wonder, right?
Well, the sources highlight a real economic tension here. We're not taking sides here, but it's important to understand the landscape the sources outline. Groups like the Asphalt Roofing Manufacturers Association have actively lobbied against reflective building codes. For instance, in Tennessee just recently in 2025, lobbyists got reflective roofing codes completely stripped. In Baltimore in 2022, they lobbied against cool roof ordinances. The black rubber roof industry even funded their own research to examine if the benefits of reflective roofs were inconclusive. And this trickles all the way down to homeowners associations, where some literally have explicit rules banning white or reflective roofs entirely.
And when you step back, the sources point out a pretty stark economic contrast. The global HVAC market is a massive $130 billion industry, heavily reliant on standard cooling methods. The coatings and paint industry, that generates $200 billion. On the flip side, natural mineral commodities like hydrated lime and foil are super inexpensive and completely unpatentable. I mean, a 50-pound bag of lime costs between $7 and $14 at any hardware store. It really highlights a fundamental difference between complex, high-cost cooling mechanics and basic, low-cost material physics.
Now, getting back to the science, the physics behind why a white roof works so incredibly well is just fascinating. It's a physical process called radiative sky cooling. Your standard air conditioner moves heat horizontally, right? It pulls heat from inside and dumps it into the 95-degree outdoor air, constantly wrestling with an environment that's already hot. But a white lime roof, it moves heat vertically. It radiates long-wave infrared energy straight up into the freezing void of space. Even on the hottest day, the sky above your roof acts as a massive heat sink with an effective temperature of -50 to -70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like having a cosmic AC unit.
And modern science is proving exactly how powerful this vertical cooling can be. In 2021, Professor Shulin Ruan at Purdue University pushed this principle to its absolute limit, creating a coating that reflects a mind-blowing 98.1% of all incoming solar radiation. It's literally in the Guinness Book of World Records. Covering 1,000 square feet of roof with this generates 10 kilowatts of continuous passive cooling power. That vastly outperforms standard residential central air units, which normally only operate at 3 to 5 kilowatts. And this does it without drawing a single watt of electricity.
But hey, you don't actually need a high-tech lab formula to get these benefits. If you want to harness this yourself, you can use the DIY Amish Lime Wash solution this very weekend. Just go to any local hardware store and buy a 50-pound bag of Type S hydrated lime for around $10. Mix 1 part lime powder with 2 parts water until it has the consistency of thin milk. Then, just grab a thick paint roller or a masonry brush and apply an even coat directly to your roof. Let it dry for a day in the sun, then apply a second coat. It really is that incredibly simple.
And what's totally brilliant is that this ancient technique doesn't just cool your home. It comes with some pretty serious bonus benefits. Lime is naturally antibacterial and antifungal. Plus, it's a historically proven fire retardant, which is exactly why King John ordered London to be whitewashed way back in the 13th century. It also repels mosquitoes and destructive insects like the deathwatch beetle. By simply reapplying it every 2 to 3 years as it weathers, you're actively protecting your home's physical structure with one of the most tested building materials in human history.
Now, if you want to make this system absolutely bulletproof, you pair that external lime wash with the internal NASA Radiant foil. You can buy a 500 square foot roll of perforated attic foil for between $30 and $60 online or at a home improvement store. You just staple it to the underside of the rafters in your attic, shiny side facing down. Just make sure to leave an air gap, don't lay it flat on your existing insulation, and overlap the seams by a couple of inches. Honestly, one person can do an average attic in a single afternoon. By doing this, you've created a dual system that intercepts nearly 100% of the radiant heat trying to invade your home.
The knowledge is out there, even if it isn't standard industry practice right now. But honestly, with the sheer size of YouTube, reaching audiences directly at such a massive scale, we have the power to share these incredible alternatives with millions of people. So drop your hottest July attic temperatures down in the comments below. And ask yourself, are you going to stick with the standard, expensive cooling systems, or will you spend $90 this weekend and finally take back control of your own roof?